This podcast is sponsored by Generation Gaming. This is the pilot episode of the Pro Wrestling News Alliance podcast, sponsored by Generation Gaming. Here are your hosts, the creator of Generation Gaming, Jay Lewis, and the pro wrestling connoisseur himself, Farside.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is the pilot episode of the Pro Wrestling News Alliance podcast. I am Jay Lewis at your service once again, alongside with my co-host, Farside. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm fine.
That's good. So this is a bit of an experiment for us. Those of you who are familiar with Generation Gaming, as this is being sponsored by, tell me I am Jay Lewis from Jay Lewis 2 Cents and the co-host of the Generation Gaming podcast, so that's why my voice sounds a little familiar. You're probably asking, why are you doing a podcast, a pro wrestling podcast? Well, last Saturday we did the audio version, the first ever Generation Rivals audio version on the WWE game series, and it got us thinking, myself and my co-host here, Farside, thought about because I had asked him if he wanted to come on future podcasts for Generation Gaming, and he said, we had the idea of doing a pro wrestling podcast. And I was like, thought about it. Well, this is obviously not video games. So what we decided to do is have a podcast separate from Generation Gaming, not in the community, but be sponsored by Generation Gaming to get the word out a little bit better. So that is what this is, and hopefully it'll take off and it'll get some good notice, and we can do more podcasts like this, because I've always been a huge fan of professional wrestling. I know Farside is a much bigger fan than I am and knows a lot about the industry. But what we're going to do is we're going to do some news and headlines, kind of like the Generation Gaming podcast, and then we're going to run down this past weekend's shows: NXT Takeover, WrestleMania 33, Monday Night Raw, and Smackdown Live. And I believe Farside's got some stuff on ROH's show, which is on Saturday, which a lot of shows were on this weekend. The indie community of wrestling. I listened to JR's podcast last night, and I think it was like there was so many indie promotions in one place down in Orlando for WrestleMania. There was a lot of shows. I think there was about 700 plus shows going on last week alone. But nonetheless, let's see. All right, so let's start out with some news and headlines. As was this past Monday was announced, Vince McMahon announced that there's going to be a major superstar shakeup, if you will. And I know many people, when they heard that, they thought, oh, it's another draft coming. To me, it's cool. That's fine. It's going to be next week to Raw and Smackdown, both brands. But the sources, what we find out, are saying that the shakeup will not be a draft. And so essentially what it's going to be is, I guess, a series of trades between the newly appointed Raw general manager, Kurt Angle, which a lot of people saw coming, and SmackDown Live's general manager, Daniel Bryan. Before I go to you, Farside, this is the official WWE statement that they posted on their website, and I quote, it says, the WWE chairman will be granting both sides an opportunity to make trades, deals, and other moves that they feel fit. According to WWE.com sources, there are many potential maneuvers that the WWE Universe will surely be buzzing over. Could we see recently engaged SmackDown stars John Cena and Nikki Bella on a separate brands as a result of the shakeup? What about a monster like Braun Strowman causing havoc on the SmackDown Live roster instead of Raw? The possibilities are endless, end quote. What do you think about this, Farside?
It's going to be interesting. They've obviously wanted to get AJ Styles on Raw for a while. AJ Styles is the man.
Yeah, he is, yeah. What makes you think that?
Interesting, but I feel that this really needs to be shaken up for the tag team division for sure.
Yeah,
that's suffered for a while.
Well, SmackDown
sure.
Maybe, I don't know. I feel like they're kind of blah on SmackDown. Raw is okay, but in general, yes, you're right. I'm sorry, I wanted to ask this. That made me think about it. What do you think for AJ Styles? What did you hear that he? I heard he was going to be turned face. But where did you hear he wanted to put him on Raw? I didn't. That could be me, just my own ignorance.
There's been rumor for a while.
Okay.
That maybe since things really aren't really working out for Roman Reigns, but that they might have changed their plans now, because it really seems they want Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, that's true.
For one more time.
Yeah, because we want to see that again. But Jesus, like, come on. I would have rather had Strowman personally, but they keep ruining his character altogether.
They did set that up on Raw, so
Yeah.
there is going to be an eventual meeting. But
Right.
this stuff, it seems like this shakeup, I don't think is really going to affect a lot of the main event people, and
Right.
it's more or less just to switch up some people on the lower card so that there's different people for these people to face.
Okay. Well, speaking of Roman Reigns, WWE finally successfully turned, the man himself, Roman Reigns, and the heel following his match with The Undertaker at WrestleMania 33. There's always been, I guess, speculation these past few years of Roman, turning heel. I always felt he should. I mean, it's almost like his chants are almost as bad as Cena's in a lot of ways. But Vince was so adamant about him being a babyface that he didn't have any plans for him to turn heel this year. Apparently. But on this past Monday night on Raw in Orlando, the fans in attendance voiced a loud chant for The Undertaker, and then when Reigns walked out, it was like just a sea of boos. I mean, they chanted everything from "You suck," "Delete," "Asshole," "Roman sucks," "Fuck you, Roman." They deleted it. They edited that part, or they tried to censor it out. I don't know if you caught that, but for me, I always felt like this is a long time coming. You think they took too long to turn him heel, or is it just one of those things that Vince is going to get what he wants? It's just his company, or?
My thing is, other than him coming out and saying that, there was no actual evidence of him turning heel.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. I'm like,
that's what people believe, but right now, I mean, no matter what, whoever really unless it was part of a storyline or like an actual passing of the torch,
right.
Whoever retired The Undertaker is going to have heat for life.
Yeah. That's true, yeah.
So Brock, he beat The Undertaker. You would think he'd have heat, but he's not there all the time. So he's not going to have heat.
Yeah, he's not. That's true. I think what I was thinking, and I got this from Jim Ross, JR. I'm not just being biased or a big fan of his, because I do listen to his podcast, but JR said it was 2 months ago after the Rumble, they said the best way to do it, if you're going to turn him heel, he's going to face Undertaker at WrestleMania. He should have cheated to beat The Undertaker. Like, low blow him or something to beat him that would have really... I mean, they hate him already. Go the full tilt and just, hit a home run with it and really heel it in there. He didn't do that, obviously. They did the typical, just 8 finishers to beat The Undertaker, or whatever it was, but... I kind of thought they should have done something like that. I kind of agree. When I heard JR say that, I'm like, that makes a lot of sense. JR is an extremely, strategic guy when it comes to the industry. But anyway, and he also was talking about The Undertaker. The speculation has been running, I guess, wild, if you will, this past Sunday and Monday on the state of The Undertaker's retirement. All signs pointed pretty much to the end of the dead man's illustrious career. And I've always been, personally, he's always been my favorite wrestler, heel, babyface, whatever. I've always enjoyed watching The Undertaker. And I think the evidence is kind of saying that he is retiring. One, at the end of the match afterwards, the actions that he took, he's never done that before, taking off his entire get-up pretty much almost. And the fact that his match with Reigns went on last, Vince never does that. Vince McMahon always puts his championship title match on last at Mania, no matter what. That's never happened. And I think it's because the loyalty The Undertaker has to WWE and always had, including during the Monday Night Wars and then to Vince in general. They've had a really good relationship. I think he's going to be a Hall of Fame first ballot, like Edge, you were saying that. But would you be surprised if The Undertaker did one more match, or you think it's like something he just needs to stay, retired, like I think he should?
Just who is there left?
Yeah.
He wanted John Cena.
Right.
But I really don't see the money in it. I guess other people do. But, it's just the matchups that everyone's wanted for years, they're gone.
Yeah.
Sting is gone. I would have preferred Goldberg versus Taker because I feel there was a story there. The Streak versus the Streak.
Right, nostalgia
Which
anyway.
Streak was better, you know. But both of them are old. It's not even Goldberg. You know, it's not like he's capable of doing a lot. I mean, it probably wouldn't have been a really great match, but that's another dream match that a lot of people could have had.
That's like a Monday Night War match right there. It's a nostalgia thing. Like you said with Sting, God, I could only imagine that would have been awesome. I mean, even though they're not in their prime, I would have paid a lot of money to see that just to see it. But definitely. All right, moving on a little bit of the news. You would think that this weekend, being WrestleMania 33, being the biggest the event of the year pro wrestling wise, be some big amount of news. Well, it's not that much because a lot of the indie groups, actually all of them, even Progress, indie group from UK was doing shows in Orlando. Yesterday on Jarrett's podcast, he mentioned they were looking for, I guess, 500 or whatever it was for tickets to be sold. Well, every single show they sold out, there was 1,500 per show, which is great for them. The promoter didn't expect it. So mentioning that, and it was going from one indie to another, well, not really indie, but Jeff Jarrett. I know this is not going to sound shocking to those who like my friend Farside here, who is in depth on the industry. Jeff Jarrett is adamant that Impact Wrestling and Global Force Wrestling is going to be becoming one. Jarrett, he didn't go into details, but he did mention that it's very likely that once Impact and Global Force Wrestling become one, that Spike TV could be their home once again. Do you think this is something? I mean, he hasn't been the owner, really part owner, or whatever you want to call it. He's part owner of Impact for that long. Do you think it's a timely thing, or do you think he's something you probably would have expected him to do kind of sooner? Or I guess it really isn't a big deal at the moment.
I'm sure he wouldn't have been able to run two companies, but is Global Force Wrestling even running?
Yeah,
most of their title holders, it says that they have a title reign of 500 days and going. So they're obviously not doing anything. I guess he just wants to. He made Global Force Wrestling such a big deal, and he's going to have to do something. So he might as well as combine the companies, even though most of the people working for Global Force were also working for Impact. So
I guess that's the thing. That's the thing about companies like that and ROH, that they don't seem to have an issue. I mean, they're not a big conglomerate company big billionaire company like WWE is, who has more of an issue with that. I guess because you're more of a superhero in some aspects. I mean, the merchandise is out through the roof, but I guess it seems to be more of a lenient thing, with Impact Wrestling and ROH, other companies in some aspects like Cody Rhodes. Do you think it's because it's indie promotions don't mind that? Is it that helps each other, or is it? Why do you think that they let that happen? It's not a big deal, or you think that's just what I'm trying to ask?
Not really. Say it all again.
Okay,
what is the?
All right, for example here. All right, let me ask you this again. Cody Rhodes. He wrestled in ROH, then he wrestled in Impact Wrestling. Did these all really soon, around the same time. WWE would never obviously allow that. Why do you think that these companies, these indie companies, allow that wrestlers to jump from company to company like that? Is it good for the companies to promote one another?
One thing I'm sure is he only signed a small contract.
Right.
So, he might have agreed to a month with TNA, and then a month with Ring of Honor.
Okay. Now, I just curious. When I've seen that before. I mean, Alberto Patron, whatever you want to call him, Del Rio, he did the same thing. He went to the UK. He went to Lucha. Not for long, but I assume that these are either one-off dates or they be coming back, or what have you. And I assume that just this is good for all these indie companies to promote one another, or because they will mention them on there. But you notice WWE will mention New Japan Pro Wrestling and IGP or whatever it is, but they will not mention Impact. They will not mention ROH, but they will mention some other indie companies. Far and few between, but.
I guess with WWE is anyone who's considered competition. I guess they kind of say
true.
no.
That's what I was kind of thinking. All right, let's see what else we got next. Okay. All right. Jim Ross, those of you who watched WrestleMania 33 this past Sunday were kind of surprised to see the Hall of Famer calling the Undertaker and Roman Reigns match. He came out. Undertaker did ask him to call the match, but WWE and Jim Ross had been in conversation and contract negotiations for some time anyway. He was the voice of the Attitude Era, my goodness. But he signed this Saturday he signed a 2-year deal with WWE. We'll see him continue to make sporadic appearances, kind of like Brock does, and in some senses, maybe a little less, in various capacities. And remember, because he was fired in August 16th in 2013 when he was hosting that WWE 2K14 roster announcement panel, and I guess they assumed he was intoxicated, and I guess he was swearing on several occasions. He acted unprofessionally. But the ironic thing was his contract was up right after that, so it was almost like an excuse not to re-sign him, which I just find odd. He was there for like 20-some years. Right. But you think this is a good thing for him to come back, like in a sporadic way, or just because I've always liked Jim Ross? I mean, even now he's still got it, but or is it something that you think it'd be better if he was doing like more of a permanent basis with WWE, or does it not matter?
Well, I mean, it's good to have him back. He's probably only going to do like pay-per-view stuff. But something tells me this is this is to stymie New Japan in a way, because I think they kind of banking on Jim Ross to be an announcer for when New Japan comes to America. So yeah, I think WWE is actively trying to stop New Japan from becoming their direct competition any way they possibly can. So with JR not being an announcer for them, they're going to have to resort probably back to the Ring of Honor announcing team. So yeah, that's but it's great to have JR back. I prefer that, especially since Mauro Ronaldo hasn't showed up in
I'm glad I'm glad you mentioned that. You and I were talking this the other day, just off, obviously not on air podcast, but you mentioned what you were saying. You were reading about him. He's having an issue with JBL. Like, what is exactly were you meaning by that?
It's apparently yes. Ronaldo got an award for Best Announcer of the Year, right? And he basically just tweeted and said thank you and stuff to the fans. And apparently JBL, said you're not supposed to do that, and they got in a big fight. And they say that Ronaldo deals with depression, and something tells me this. I don't think Ronaldo has ever worked a schedule like this, so it might be just too many things at once. Okay. And it just kind of shut him down. But my thing is that, for WWE to be promoting a no bullying campaign, and then JBL just kind of gets on him about something that is so trivial.
Yeah, I'm going to say, isn't that award JR's won this award? Other announcers have won this award.
He's never acknowledged it being a part of WWE. I guess
it shouldn't matter.
They don't want to acknowledge these awards. They'll still go to the award shows and everything, I guess. Right. But it's they'll never acknowledge it on, when they're on, live or something. Okay. I guess I don't ever recall Ronaldo ever saying anything, but he might have just kind of thrown it in at one point. Yeah. Hey, what's the big deal? I would think you'd want that. Hey, he's the best announcer we have. Yeah.
I like him a lot. Yeah, he's good. Yeah, he reminds me of JR a lot. His enthusiasm.
Because he's enthusiastic about the business. Right. But I think the 3 people or 4 people on the announce team
that's so ridiculous.
Really, confusing.
Why? You don't need 4 people. 2 is enough, always. 3 was always, I think, pushing it. I mean, personally, and this is no offense to him, but Saxon on Monday night, he can go in NXT and or something else. I can't stand him. I'd be fine with Corey and Cole, honestly. The dude's fine, but like every time I hear his voice, I just want to like, it's like nails on a chalkboard. Like I just like, please stop talking. Just
see, like, and so my thing is, if Ronaldo comes back, they're gonna have to do something. They're not gonna keep him and JBL together.
No.
So maybe it's possible during the Superstar Shakeup that they could switch the announce team like they used to during the draft. So maybe have Graves come to SmackDown,
right?
And since Graves seems to be, he does critique wrestling. During, if you actually listen sometimes during Raw, he critiques them. Well, the wrestler will be like, that drop kick was a glancing blow. Like, it's kind of subtle. He's not really, but like he's
good though.
He's very wrestling oriented when he does his broadcast.
You know what though? I what you just said makes a lot of sense. They did that before. Remember they put JR on SmackDown before. I don't know if that was necessarily a draft thing, but if they did that, they put Ronaldo on Raw. Don't you think that maybe that might be conflicting with Cole because they kind of have the same personalities? They're almost like that host kind of commentator.
I was saying switch JBL.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Him with Cole and Graves with Ronaldo.
Right. Okay, I'm sorry. I understand. That makes sense. Okay. All right. Well, I looked this up and I just wanted to reiterate what you were talking about. We were talking about not to go off topic, we're going to switch back real quick to Jeff Jarrett. We're talking about Global Force Wrestling. He did an interview recently with former WCW ring announcer David Penzer for Hannibal TV. And one of the questions that Jeff Jarrett was asked was whether Global Force Wrestling is alive and well. Jarrett said, he said, I know, because I remember seeing this and I'm like, okay, because I didn't have the answer right away, but I wanted to mention it. Jarrett said, and I quote, "Oh, absolutely, in the weeks and days, months, however, that saying goes, more will come out, but yeah, Global Force and Impact are becoming one day by day." What a stupid, non-detailed answer that was. That didn't tell us anything. All you're saying was, yes, that's going to come out. I don't know when, but it'll be fine. Because I was, what you had said, like, I haven't seen, I'm starting to watch indie more and more, and that's one thing, like, I have not noticed at all. I'm like, are they even a company anymore? Like, are you doing anything?
They did was that they promoted shows, like, in Tennessee, where he's from.
I see.
They didn't really go anywhere.
Right, so that just convenient.
They were at baseball fields, and they weren't even pulling, like, 200 people.
Nice. There
was like a picture showing like one of their first events. There was probably only a good 50 people in the crowd. Like
wow, it
wasn't that good.
Well, all right. Well, all right. Well, speaking before we go into the our reviews, I guess if you will, of this past weekend's WWE shows, the biggest weekend of the year, I guess you could say. For WWE. I wanted to ask you a question, Farside. Maybe this isn't like a fair question or assessment, but if as far as indie wrestling, because that's kind of like something that I do. If we end up doing another podcast, that's going to be a main focal point. I want to make that clear right now. Anybody who's listening, that this is not going to be WWE podcast. This is Pro Wrestling News Alliance podcast. We're going to be talking about indie wrestling. Yes, we're talking about WWE. They're the biggest. You can't not. They're the biggest dogs there, but. I guess my question is, because I know you're big on indie wrestling and promotions, obviously. If you had to pick one promotion, like whatever, that you liked above all others, I know that sounds like a ridiculous question sometimes. Which one would you pick, or which one you think is doing the best, or it's the best content, I guess, for people that might not be familiar with indie wrestling but want to check it out? But which one would you say, hey, check that out first? It's worth your time.
Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. That seems to be. I think they hype their shows up. They sell out instantly.
Okay.
But they're mainly just a California-based promotion. But
Psychosis mentioned that to me. He said
most of the top of the top indies. Like it used to be like Ring of Honor was the top.
Right.
But since they've wanted to expand, they kind of want to get up with WWE, so they kind of go across the country with their shows.
Right.
So I wouldn't really consider Ring of Honor that much indie anymore. Just probably a couple of notches below WWE. They're still kind of continental promotion, and so yeah, I think Pro Wrestling Guerrilla, they're probably like the top, like almost. If you're a big star. They're most likely showing up in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla. Like Cody Rhodes went to Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and did a couple of shows, so it obviously means something.
Yeah, like I said, the co-host of the Generation Gaming podcast, Psychosis, had mentioned it to me. And he said, check it out. And I watched. I was only able to watch one match at the time that I was watching. I was like, wow. I mean, it wasn't like, because there's some people who I've heard that will try to base off promotions bigger than others, whether their production value. Like, they'll say, well, Impact must be second to WWE because of they're in Orlando and they're big. Their production value seems high and great. And I guess, you know what? I kind of agreed with that at one time, and now that I think about it, that's not the case anymore. It's about the talent in the ring and the people on the mic talking. It might not be in the greatest venue, but if you want to be big like that, I don't think that the way to look at it is the talent. That's obviously the way to go, I think, now. I used to be, thinking like, oh, yeah, to imagine how much money we spend on lighting and video, promote, reels and all that crap. But I think that matters anymore. But, all right. Now, what do you, we were talking earlier before we started the show, you wanted to mention ROH this past Saturday. Before we start on NXT TakeOver, what did you have for that?
It's not, I didn't get to watch it or anything, but I know that, the Hardys have had a hell of a weekend because they did a show on Friday,
right?
A ladder match Saturday where they lost the ROH tag titles, and then of course another ladder match on Sunday to win the Raw Tag Team Championship. I mean, like, that's a hell of a weekend.
Yeah, sorry. What? Stupid video pop-ups. Yeah, it's a lot. Like, that kind of goes in hand in hand everything that was going on this past weekend. There was so much going on. So I did not get the chance to. I watched WrestleMania. I watched Raw, and I watched some of Smackdown. I couldn't. I just fell asleep. And I watched half of TakeOver Orlando. Well, Farside, thankfully, this is a two-man show, and he has watched most of it. But nonetheless, it doesn't matter. So I guess we'll break it down. Start of NXT TakeOver Orlando, the card. It was, let's see. It was 5 matches, I think. It wasn't it wasn't that much. I think it was a 2-hour show, if I'm not mistaken. So if you had to, before we go, I guess, into any of it, what, just off the top, which match stood out to you the most on TakeOver Orlando?
The tag team match.
Okay.
That one was.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one that the crowd they were hyped as hell for. The DIY and the Revival, they put the Authors of Pain over like $1 million.
They did, yeah. I did see that one. Yeah, that's the triple. What he's talking about is the NXT Tag Team Championship Triple Threat Elimination match. That was good. Were you? I guess the outcome of that. Were you expecting that, or was that something?
Pretty much.
Right.
It's very doubtful that DIY was going to win, but the crowd was they were yelling bullshit and stuff when they were eliminated.
Yeah, I saw that.
This was obviously, the Revival's last match, so they should have been the last ones to be taken out.
Yeah.
So, it made more sense for the Revival to end up eliminated last. And they put up a hell of a fight before the end, and, obviously falling to the Super Collider, the double powerbomb spot.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Authors of Pain retained, and they got the brand new tag team titles. The very traditional and very modern looking tag team titles, plus the all new belts that they debuted at the show.
Going to mention this right now. Me and Farside were talking about this yesterday. As far as WWE is concerned, NXT has the best championships out of any other title in the company. I swear, because we're watching, and I was watching, we're on an Xbox Live party, and I was watching Brock Lesnar's thing, and that belt looks so crappy. I felt like, and then you told me who actually made it, the strap looks like a piece of junk. I'm like, this is $1 billion company. You telling me you couldn't get a better wrestling strap than that? Like, I like the WWE World Championship, the black one, because Universal title, you were saying it yourself. You were saying, like, you were getting excited about it when they first debuted it. I'm like, oh, great, and it's just a red version of black.
Yeah, that's because the aspect of they're creating a whole new title.
Right.
So I'm like, and I think a lot of people were speculating, like, maybe it's going to have a more traditional design, like the NXT World title.
Correct.
That's what I was hoping for.
Yeah.
So that you could be different. And here it is they just took the WWE title and put a red strap on it.
Yeah, it just felt lazy to me.
Yeah, but I guess it kind of makes sense and it kind of doesn't.
Right.
You know, it's not a very the actual design for the WWE title that was made by Orange County Choppers, and they don't make great designs for everything.
No.
But like it's just very simple.
It was.
And not very elegant or anything. It's just a simple, hexagon with the WWE logo inside. There's nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, other than I like the idea of the personal plates.
Yes.
The side plates. That's cool because so then instead of just saying like on a nameplate, this is your champion. It's personalized. Sort of like when Stone Cold and The Rock had their own version of their world title.
I always like that. Yeah.
So
cool.
I like that idea, but yeah, it's just NXT revealed these new titles and they're gorgeous.
Yeah, they are really nice. I do, especially the NXT World Championship. That title looks so great. Yeah, I like the old one, but I mean the new one looks amazing. It really does. And then speaking of that, the NXT Championship, my favorite match had to be the main event. Bobby Roode and Nakamura just knocked it apart. I know some people complained about it, but that match...
These two seem like they were meant to wrestle each other.
Yes.
They could go for... Whenever Bobby Roode comes up to the main roster, you could just restart this feud automatically. Yeah. These two... It seems like Nakamura has not had a bad match since coming, but Bobby Roode has definitely been elevated because of facing Nakamura.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm glad you said that. I feel like everyone that Nakamura has wrestled since being in WWE, and I'm sure he did the same thing when he's in New Japan, he elevates everyone he's in the ring with. He makes everyone look way better than they did beforehand. I love Samoa Joe, but after those matches I watched him do, it was just like I had a new light about Samoa Joe because he just put him over, he puts everyone over so well. I mean, even if Nakamura is meant to win the match, my words jambled. Nakamura he's just an ultimate strategist. I mean, he really is. I mean, I know he's the king of strong style, but he's just. I really want to see him and AJ Styles get in a feud because those matches in New Japan were just unbelievable, and those are probably some of my favorite matches besides Taker and Michaels. Those two guys together are just unbelievably just money. But let's see. Also was the NXT Takeover Orlando was the debut of Alistair Black. I did not get to see that match, but I remember you were messaging me about it. How was his debut?
He had a kind of interesting entrance. It seemed like he was raised from a crypt, like he was Dracula.
Nice.
So they might be going with like a darker character. He did have when he was over in Progress, he had a similar kind of gimmick, but at that time he wore face paint and stuff as being kind of like a darker themed character. But him and Andrade Almas, they had a very hard hitting match. Yeah. But I feel like they probably told Black to not go all out because I've seen matches where he goes all out. He's a very interesting performer. It seemed like this might have been almost last kind of match because I think they were kind of rumoring him to come up to the main roster, probably most likely to 205 Live.
Okay.
But it seemed like Almost was the one who showed off in this match because he looked really good and put Black over like $1 million. The interesting spot was, Black he got out of the hammerlock DDT and hit a bicycle knee, which knocked Almost out, and then Black, using just his foot, picked up Almost by his chin and lifted him all the way up so he could deliver the Black Mass, the spinning back roundhouse kick to end the match. It was an amazing thing to see him just lift this guy up with just his foot.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it sounded. I was doing like a bunch of things at once. I saw like I didn't see the whole coffin thing or whatever you're talking about, the entrance part, but I saw him come out and dude is like a brick shit house. He's no small man by any means necessary.
Right.
But he looks like he's. I've heard a little bit about him, and I wanted to read up on him, and he's no slouch. So I expect big things from him here in WWE. So what to do, because we're going to move along to WrestleMania 33, because we talk about every single match. We're going to be here for hours, and we don't have the time, unfortunately. I'm sorry. So let's move it on to WrestleMania 33. And I pointed this out, and you called this when Sunday before WrestleMania started. You said to me, looking at the card, you said that the WWE Cruiserweight match between Neville and Alistair is going to be the best match on the card. And it pretty much was, wrestling-wise. It was. And it shouldn't have been on the kickoff match at all because, that I watched that match. I did get to watch in between doing other stuff that I was doing. And that was those two. Austin Aries is always one of my favorites. I'm glad he got to come to WWE finally because he's not exactly a young guy, I guess, per se, anymore. What do you think, like in his mid-30s, I think, maybe,
right.
Or late 30s. But those two guys are another group or another set of individuals that seem to be meant together. I mean, do you think?
I do, but something tells me, like, they didn't go all out, though.
No.
They had a particularly good match. This was mostly about Austin Aries getting most of his spots in.
Right.
And making it look like he was about to win the title, and then Neville basically taking it away from him.
Yes.
Because Neville is, I right now I think Neville is the best heel going around.
Yeah, he's good as a heel.
Something tells me that everybody was told that they can't show off too much. Like, I get the feeling the spotlight really was on Lesnar and Goldberg, obviously for Taker at the end, but something tells me they told everybody to not show off. Because it feels like none of the matches on this card, like, a lot of guys here, especially like Owens and Jericho, that should have been another match that was like potential to be like one of the best.
Yeah.
And it just kind of just had a match. Like, it was good and all, and they had an interesting spot at the end.
It felt like a Raw match, honestly.
Yeah, but nobody's match stood out. It's like each match had one, maybe two spots.
Right.
And that's about it. Like, it doesn't seem like anyone tried to steal the show.
Yeah. So after that was I'm not going to go to each one. I just point out kind of some big pointers that you and I talk about. The Andre Memorial Battle Royal. Now, this, first of all, I know that it's a Battle Royal and it's huge, but I don't ever remember this. I feel like this is the biggest as far as amount of wrestlers. It seems so overly ridiculous, the amount of people that were in the ring. I'm like, how the hell anybody could do anything?
It was 33 people.
Yeah.
I think because this is WrestleMania 33,
right. Okay.
they had to have 33 people.
Well, there you go. I ain't got to be cliche, I guess, but they do. And then Mojo Rawley. Give him an A for effort being enthusiastic every time I see him. But I thought that you pointed this out. You're like, why is he wearing Maryland tights? And I really thought he was from Maryland. And then you said he was from Virginia?
Yeah, he has no ties to Maryland. It's just he just had Maryland flag themed tights. I was just like, this. Why?
That made no sense.
We're Maryland boys, and this guy's representing us, and he has nothing to do with Maryland. Like, he didn't even go to college here. That's maybe I thought, I was like, okay, he's from Virginia. Maybe he went to Maryland. No, nothing. I'm just like, what? Why is he wearing this?
Yeah.
Like, what is the get up here? Like, I don't. Yeah, it confused me. I think that, given his interview on Smackdown, that maybe they are going to go with him. He might get a significant push. It just feels like I said before. I just think like maybe now he needs to get serious and stop being kind of like the joke character of like I'm always hyped and doing these just ridiculous moves that like. Because he did get like a little bit serious and then went back to the jokey character afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know.
So he might be hinting at becoming a little bit more of a serious competitor in the next couple of months.
Right.
But, I just think he needs to stop doing that butt splash. That's about it.
I kind of feel the same way. I kind of think that the Battle Royal, the Andre, the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, always the winner of every time so far, at least I think we're maybe the first in the Big Show, has boosted that superstar up a lot, and it's really elevated that superstar, and I was kind of surprised. What even kind of almost surprised me more is the fact that Braun Strowman got crapped on again. I really don't understand why WWE is doing this to him, because he is just money, and they ruined his momentum at Fastlane when they made him lose to Reigns. That didn't need to happen. Then promoted him for this match.
It still took everyone in there to take him out. So like it required a lot of people.
I get that. I totally understand the strategic side of it. I just feel like he should have won because I just feel like every time they're starting to like elevate him, they just bring him back down. I think he was the only one that had like a promo video for the Battle Royal. So that right there is kind of like, all right, let's build him up, and you just chop the guy down. It's like there's no reason. He's a monster.
It seems like it probably wasn't the original plan to have him win.
Right.
But I guess also they were kind of banking on Shaq to be there, and I guess when that was out of the picture, they were like,
him and Big Show.
Well, Gronk is going to be here, so why don't we just do a spot with Gronk?
There you go. Yeah, that wasn't bad. That was all right. Maybe after football he'll do that. And after that was probably my favorite match, nostalgia wise, and it was a really good match. Was the Raw Tag Team Championships originally triple threat ladder match until the New Day came out and announced, and everyone thought that they were going to be the fourth team. They were going to put themselves in there. I kind of thought that they might do that anyway before they even said it. And then the Hardy Boys music hit, and then the place if that place had a roof on it, Stone Cold said this yesterday, if that place had a roof on it, it would have blew off. Because people just lost themselves completely.
They were already chanting delete when New Day was teasing it.
Yeah.
And, like I said before, it's like, they were just at Ring of Honor the night before. And lucky that every other show was in Florida, so it's not like they had to come from very far away.
No, they didn't.
But, that was... If there was one big moment, other than everything else that happened, that was it. Basically, because after this, the crowd was done. I think that there was everyone just had a huge orgy because the Hardys are back, and Matt he's still kind of playing the broken gimmick a bit. He's not really outright doing it, and Jeff is just being regular Jeff. Mm-hmm. And for them to come back, hit almost everyone and single their spots on all of these guys. And then for Jeff to hit the swanton and the ridiculous 30-foot ladder,
like he always does,
Cesaro and Sheamus.
Love that ladder.
and then Matt to grab the titles. That was It went. The crowd went nuts for that. That was extremely big.
Yeah, what you mentioned, the crowd got so into that they're tired. After that match, there were 9 more matches. That was crazy. I'm sorry, 8 more matches. That in itself. First of all, I need to say this. WrestleMania is 6 hours, just like SummerSlam was 6 hours. And Survivor Series wasn't. But in Royal Rumble, it might have been 5. Either way, these shows, WrestleMania's always been 4 hours. At least it has been for the last maybe decade, I think. But, I think it's getting to the point where, they're going to have to back it up. Because when you got to the Undertaker match, I felt like people were it was like hearing crickets or chirp.
Right.
Nobody was into it really because they were tired.
The Hardys was exhausting. That was everybody marked out. They were hyped up. And it's just the rest of the matches on the card, especially when you get to the women's and come on, why
that was a decent match.
It was just 5 minutes, though.
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing.
The girls quickly did all their spots, and that was it. And, I'm
I kind of...
that didn't need to be on that latter half.
No, it didn't. But, it's funny you say that. The other thing I noticed is they also did... on all the big matches, they give you the video package. That's great and all fine. But why waste 5 minutes or 4 minutes on a video package that you've shown us 3 or 4 times this week already when you could just be giving us the match? I've seen this. It's fine. It's nothing different than what you just showed me on the kickoff show, on Raw, on Smackdown, and whatever else, NXT. Why just shove it in our face to have it there? They never used to do that before. Those video packages were just for the pay-per-views or on Sunday Night Heat, and that was it. Now it's just you got to it's you're not gonna forget. They don't want you to forget that match or whatever it is. But it just that was unnecessary too. So kind of go triple. Let's skim through this. So I guess I asked you in NXT Takeover Orlando, which besides the was it the ladder match is pretty much the one?
Yeah, that was your match
like mine. Same here.
And the thing was, during the Takeover, I was like, how is that ladder match gonna top the tag team match at the NXT Takeover? And having the Hardys in it was
Yeah.
Like, they're both, like, I consider those two matches, though, that was it. Like, there was nothing that topped those two matches on the show. Like, yeah, because it was amazing. Like, both of them were amazing in their own right. But because, like, none of the other matches really stuck out to me. Like, Triple H and Seth Rollins, they just kind of had a match. There wasn't anything special. Like, I kind of expected Samoa Joe to come out at some point. And,
yes.
You know, maybe, like, it was just Triple H and Seth. They had a decent match. Oh, shoot. Where?
Yeah. Anyway, yes. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking. Like, you know, that's another thing. You could tell the times have changed with that non-sanctioned match. Last time they did a non-sanctioned match, if I'm correct, was with Triple H versus Shawn Michaels at SummerSlam 2002, and that was a really bloody, hardcore match. And that's usually kind of how I got out of those matches. You know, they seem to be hardcore in your face, and this really wasn't, but that's kind of how the times have changed. It's very PG now, and I'm assuming that's because of the sponsors and everything. But, you know, so let's see, we got about 15 minutes left here in the show. Let's see, so let's do that's one more match, I guess. The one that surprised me, I guess you won the MVP, was Shane McMahon versus AJ Styles. That one, I enjoyed that a lot. I didn't think I was going to, because it wasn't, you know, it was it was a regular wrestling match, but that one, I enjoyed that more than I thought I would. But Shane did a lot of the MMA kind of holds and that
was particularly shocking because no one expected it out of him, especially given it's a regular match and they were selling that as, you know, he's never been in a normal just straight up wrestling match.
Right.
There's always been some stipulation, hardcore or no falls.
Yes.
Like anywhere falls. Like so yeah, I just don't like that he kicked out of the Styles Clash.
Yeah, that one I kind of didn't really appreciate very much, to be frankly honest. That kind of just like, I don't want to say spit in Styles' face, but come on, he beat bigger wrestlers with that move than Shane. But anyway, so is there any other besides the boring, guy? It was 10 minutes. 10 minutes of the Lesnar Goldberg match, which was. I had a feeling they were going to do something like that, but it was just a joke, frankly. But Lesnar is, like you were saying the other day, Lesnar is not the same guy he used to be, and he's not. He pretty much just, like, well, you go ahead. Say what you're saying about the suplexes and how Lesnar is.
He doesn't care anymore. Like, I think when he first came into WWE, he was all about it. And, now he's done the whole MMA career. All he really wants is money. I mean, I think he knows he's a big draw, but I think he's not going to put forth the effort to do, like, a real wrestling match anymore. It's like, oh man, we're just going to keep the whole MMA style character for him. And so he's not going to go above and beyond anymore. Mm-hmm. So I feel like I'm just kind of over the whole Suplex City stuff because, you can't keep doing it.
No.
You now beat, like, for other than Goldberg, he's beating everybody else. Who is there to beat? Because he's beating everybody.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, he doesn't seem like he's really into it like that much anymore, his matches. Except for the last time I thought he had a really great match was him versus The Undertaker in Hell in a Cell. I really loved that match.
Right, because Undertaker's going to bring that out of him. Undertaker's just not going to let him suplex him.
No, I know that. Right. I'm just saying, I'm just mentioning that's the last time I thought I could actually think off the top of my head that I actually enjoyed it. But other than that, that's pretty much. I mean, we covered The Undertaker and Roman Reigns pretty much. I guess we didn't cover the match. That match, it wasn't his best. Like we said, that match just nobody was into it because not into it. They didn't watch it, but the crowd was so tired. It took Roman Reigns about I can't tell you how many spears, like lost count to beat The Undertaker. But they had to. If that's how he was going to go out, he was going to go out.
8 Superman punches and 9
You know
scoops.
What? If that match was in the middle of the card, it probably would have got a bigger pop. Maybe I don't know, but. I'm guessing, obviously, being hypothetical on that one, but who knows? But all right, let's move on down to the 2 shows here in the week: Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. First, it's Monday Night Raw, the biggest Monday Night Raw of the year. One of my favorite. I love watching this show. Of course, I don't have cable at the moment. I'm watching it on Hulu, but it's fine. I was checking it on Twitter and all that stuff. But what did you think? Because I enjoyed it. I actually, what you said actually yesterday. But go ahead.
Yeah, they obviously wanted to come out and make a big splash. So they had the whole long thing with Roman, but Hardys were there defending the titles against Anderson and Gallows. So the Hardys are definitely here.
Right.
I thought for a second that maybe it was like they'd have to do their indie bookings. So maybe it's they might have to still do a couple, but then they'll still be on Raw and stuff. So that's the only thing I was worried about, was that the Hardys weren't going to be on Raw, but they were there right from the get go. New Day came out and made an open challenge and was met with the Revival.
Yeah.
And the Revival made a big statement by destroying them outright, and then destroying Kofi Kingston's leg.
Yeah. So
they come out and they verify that they're heels, even though they had a huge face reaction when they came out. Like they're so over. You had Emma come back in her gimmick before the Emelina fiasco.
Yeah.
So the crowd was kind of popping for that, and it kind of seems like the next feud for Bayley is probably with Emma. Yeah. And then of course Jericho gets attacked backstage and leads to Finn Balor returning in the tag team match at the end. And,
I'm happy for the Vince McMahon came, but that seems to be the time he comes back. And Vince, he comes out on TV as the Raw after Mania, and I'm happy for Kurt Angle that he's gotten to come back to the company. I personally would love to see him in another match, and I'm sure they will, maybe when they have something that feels right to do it. Because I've always enjoyed Angle's wrestling style. He just makes it so authentic and so much more realistic. But for where he is right now, it'd be perfect for him, because he's also, a lot of people forget, he's really entertaining. He'll be a really funny guy, if he wants to be or has to be. So I think it's a good fit for him. Let's see. What else we got here? So that was Raw. Raw was really good. And then, like you said, Finn Balor came out at the end. Reigns turned heel, if you want to call it that. I mean, that's what everybody's saying, but, well, we'll see. Judgment on that one. But you said to me, I think you said to me that Raw felt better than WrestleMania did in a lot of aspects.
I think every match was especially Neville versus Mustafa Ali.
Yeah.
That match was on point. It's just the fans were kind of being assholes. I think... Mustafa Ali really showed off here, and that it was a really good match, and I rated it just a little bit above the Austin Aries Neville match, because, like I said, it felt like they were told to just don't show off too much, don't steal the show, because we gotta I think the focal point was Lesnar and Goldberg, and then Undertaker at the end. So I get the feeling that they were told don't show off too much. Mm-hmm. Which, I feel as though, this is WrestleMania. This should be the show. You should be showing off. I feel like you shouldn't handicap yourself just because somebody else is the main event.
I kind of feel like it's almost like a lot of wrestlers, and that probably was in those exact words, or some aspect of those words. But I kind of feel like the wrestlers in WWE nowadays just don't break the mold, and they don't Vince's word, reach for that brass ring. And they don't go out of the box, because probably they're afraid they're going to lose their jobs. I guarantee that's what it partly is. And they don't want to go over the top like guys used to do, like Austin did, or The Rock did, or Undertaker, whoever back, in that attitude, aggressive, ruthless aggressive era, whatever you want to call it. Guys went out, didn't listen to exactly what they were getting told, but it ended up being really great. I feel like guys don't do that anymore, because they're so closeted. They don't want to, piss anybody off or do the wrong thing, but their talent is being limited. So yeah, it's kind of how that feels.
I kind of feel the same way,
yeah.
But something tells me is I don't think the guys are ever given the chance to really break out.
Yeah,
because
maybe not.
I don't think it's that anyone doesn't have, because it CM Punk was willing to buck the system and see what happened to him.
Yeah.
So he just gave up.
Yeah, he got tired of it. He's getting BS'd. I think he's getting WWE is kind of really
but because it's very obvious that the WWE is going in one direction, and I feel like this is the Roman Reigns direction,
right?
And Vince is not going to change his mind.
Yeah, that's true. All right, now finally we're going to get on Smackdown Live. This was another. I did not get a chance to see this. I screwed it over, and I kind of get the headlines aspect of it. What was your takeaway from Smackdown Live?
It seemed, I think, Raw definitely edged SmackDown out here. I feel that Raw was the better show. Because I think Emma returning was a way bigger thing than Eric Rowan returning.
Yes,
because the feud with the Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt, that's just lost steam to me.
Yeah.
Well, it seemed like everything was like really, really like good until the actual match at WrestleMania. So I definitely feel like Bray Wyatt definitely should have won his match at
another
WrestleMania.
Killer. Yeah, I have to disagree with you on one thing. I'm sorry, before you go on. For me, I feel like Nakamura debuting is bigger than Emma, but that's returning, not debuting.
That's I think it's like Nakamura is definitely way over Finn Balor returning. But I just feel as like, to me, the moment would have been so much better if he had verbally gone against The Miz, because The Miz is on top of the game right now. The Miz was in the ring, and then when Nakamura comes out, and The Miz is gone.
Yeah, I didn't understand
And so it's like, all we got was Nakamura coming out.
Yeah.
That's it. Like, I expected, okay, we verified that The Miz is top shit right now, and he goes against Nakamura. And, it's just kind of like, they kind of just messed that moment up. It's great that Nakamura was on. Like, everyone went nuts for it, especially the fact that, they typically don't go for the special entrance thing on a SmackDown. He had the violinist with him.
Yeah, he did
and that was amazing. So it sparked the real moment there. But I just feel like the Miz should have got a chance to really go up against Nakamura. They shouldn't have had a match, but just had a confrontation.
Yeah,
and then of course, the other big thing was, Kurt Hawkins. He did an open challenge, and the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger came out. And
I like Ty Dillinger. He's definitely pretty
good. It's they had Nakamura, but I just feel it's like they didn't really accomplish anything on SmackDown for real, other than AJ Styles obviously turned face.
Yes, that the handshake kind of symbolized
and for him to say I made SmackDown Live what it is, I don't want to go anywhere. So, that right there,
hard to tell,
it just screams like they're going to put him on Raw. Somehow, there's going to be some way that he ends up on Raw, and that's just going to, my thing is, you screw that up, you get Nakamura, and that, I think that's what their plan is for WrestleMania, is AJ Styles versus Nakamura.
That would be awesome. I think they should do it before that, personally, but that's me being biased. But that's
I think you should save that. I think Nakamura should probably get a good 2 months with The Miz.
Yeah.
Probably with somebody else, but I just maybe Dean Ambrose and then somebody else, and save AJ Styles for him for WrestleMania.
It's funny you said we're talking about The Miz. Just to backtrack a little bit, you and I were mentioning this. The WrestleMania mixed tag match was just pretty much a place filler. But you were saying it, and I agree with you. The Miz lately he's starting to get better, and he is from what he's come from.
It's not that he's getting better; he's over.
That's essentially
more
the same
over
thing,
than he's ever been in his entire 10 years now. Him in this last year, especially starting with the stuff with Daniel Bryan on that Talk with Smack, it's he's definitely gained the respect of the fans and proved that he's more than just the silly little heel. I mean, he's on point, and all that stuff with John, stuff against John Cena, that's hilarious. So I've never thought before this last year, that Miz deserved his world title run back then.
No.
But I feel he's deserving of a main event run now.
Yeah. That run he had was kind of like what Dolph Ziggler had as a world title run. It was one and done, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah, it was just a flash in the pan. I think, Vince was trying something.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, maybe the Miz is over. Let's try it. He wasn't.
No, he wasn't. That was when The Rock and Cena were
feuding. He definitely is now. He is really good.
Yeah.
And I feel he deserves a world title run. Yeah. So maybe when this silly stuff with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton is over, he can finally get his little shot.
Yeah, I feel bad for Bray Wyatt. He's another, we're mentioning that. I feel like like you said, he shouldn't have lost his title. Orton's had, 13? This is his 13th World Championship.
14.
Yeah. It's
I don't mind Orton winning.
No.
It's just you screw the prestige of the title by having it changed 4 times in 3 months. It's
like the Raw's Women's Championship. It's bouncing around all the time.
It's just like John Cena had it for 2 weeks. What was the point of John Cena having it other than to get the 16th win?
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It didn't make much sense. All right, we are at the hour mark here for the pilot episode of the Pro Wrestling News Alliance podcast. I want to thank my co-host here at Farside. It was very cool, man. This is a good little experience from us. Hopefully this will pop off and a lot of people will enjoy this. We'll do another podcast here. Is there anything you wanted to add or end up before we close up?
It was interesting, but obviously we could definitely fill an hour with the stuff we talked about.
Yeah, we had a lot. We did have a lot to talk about, so it was good. So I think we'll do. We have more to talk about, bigger and better things, I think, for us. So hopefully this will come over. It's an experiment. And again, this is sponsored by Generation Gaming. But nonetheless, thank you, Farside, for joining me. This will be our normal lineup. Myself and Farside, the host of the Pro Wrestling News Alliance podcast. This has been a pilot. So we hope to hear and hope all of you will join us here soon. Hopefully we'll get another podcast out. We will let all of you know. I am Jay Lewis. This is Farside. This is the Pro Wrestling News Alliance podcast.